What is going on, my Ghost Squad? Welcome to Tactical Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, June 12th, 2018. We are live, as always, on YouTube and simulcasting, as always, over on GunChannels.com. I'm sure by now you guys are all well-versed in what GunChannels is, but if you're not, then we ask you to please crawl out from under the rock that you live in and go check GunChannels out. Basically, it is a pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment community. You can find anything and everything over there between questions and lobbies and different channels. There is a 24/7 lobby chat that goes on at all times. So if you have a gun question or any question related to the gun community, there is usually someone over there that can answer it for you. I like to call it the water cooler of the gun community. So welcome, everybody. Tonight's going to be an interesting show tonight. We're going to get into a little bit about some forums and chat boards that I kind of sneak into every now and then and kind of see what's going on in there. And then we're going to talk a little bit about gun control and all that. So nobody out there yell at me quite yet. Let's see where it flows. I'm sure we'll have some interesting discussions. We very well could have some people that are in the chat that are not the normal chat people. So if there are, I ask everybody to please show a little respect to them, even if their opinions differ from yours and ours, I should say, that we give them their time. My mods out there, please be on the lookout for anything that would be construed as degrading or disrespectful. I'm all for differing opinions, but let's just make sure we keep it somewhat clean out there. I ask everyone out there, do not attack these people unless they deserve or ask to be attacked. So I did not put this on Reddit. No, I've been banned from Reddit. Everyone knows I am no longer allowed on Reddit. So anyways, let's go check out and see on the YouTube or on the Gun Channel side. Let's see here. G-Webs, DT Pfeiffer, Casino Boss. On the YouTube side, we've got JB Productions, Grim the Reapers out there, Gun-Loving Grandpa Stanley, D-Temp, David Bowling, Nate's out there. What's up? D-Temp is, I just said that. I'll say D-Temp twice or three times. What's up? Casino Boss, what's going on? He got his patch, chip, and sticker today. Great quality and will display proudly. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for your support. G's out there in 11 different channels that he has. So thanks, G, for spamming my chat over there with all your different channels. I love it. And he says back to Gun Channels. Mohawk Boys out there. Tack Daddy is saying, oh, shit. Okay, here we go. Rich White, the 1% is out there. Georgia Trucker. Tack says he peed in the water cooler. That doesn't surprise me a bit. Mad Sexy 45's out there. Ben Farrell. Ben says he's finally out of high school. Let's all give Ben a round of applause. I know that you have been saying that high school has been interesting for you, and we've all been telling you, we promise, Ben, high school will not be the best days of your life, and if they are, then you've got to get a different life, bro. Welcome to the real world. Welcome to the world that you can actually say and do a little bit more than what your teachers allow. So I look forward to hearing what your comments are this fall with your first semester of college. Should you choose to go to college? If not, we'll see where it goes. But welcome to adulthood and congratulations for graduating high school. I was proud of you, buddy. Let's see here. I probably missed some people. Mike's out there. What's going on, good people? Native Gun, two hotties out there. Patriot, Semper Fidelis, brother. JJ's out there. Amorphous is out there. So we're going to get going real quick. We're going to run through the panel. It's a great panel tonight. I wouldn't say illustrious, but I would say it's great. No, I'm just kidding. It's a great panel. We got a couple links out there. So if you guys want to check your emails, maybe you guys got links, but if not, I'm just fine with a smaller panel because that makes for a better discussion. But if you want to jump in and you've got a link, then go ahead. Let's start out with Sandy, Sandhill Shooters. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, what's happening? Thanks for the link. Appreciate the swag I got in the mail the other day.
Thank you, my friend.
I'm just glad to be here.
Awesome. And for Munitions, Weapons, Tactical, Mike, what's going on? Why don't you tell some people probably seen you on Clover Chat, but if they haven't, then go ahead and explain who you are, what you're doing. I know you've got some projects going on.
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, let me say thanks for having me on the show and sending me the link. Second of all, anybody want to talk to me, I love to talk. So my door is always open for anybody. Third thing is, like I said, I do have some projects going on, a couple community projects, whereas we're doing a raffle on a couple scopes, doing a fundraiser to sponsor a couple sheriffs in the area for jiu-jitsu for a year, trying to start up a summer youth camp, marksmanship program, and trying to encourage people to get out and vote so everybody can be proactive in the community.
Awesome. Yeah. If you guys are interested, Mike, if you want to put those links out in the, I tell you what I want to do here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mod you up. So you can go ahead and put links out in the chat now for all your stuff. If you want to do that, we'd love to have you do that. What's up, unknown user? Real quick, it looks like Amorphous has an announcement. He said he just got a job with Orbital ATK making gunpowder. Wish me luck. That's awesome, bro, and absolutely good luck with that. That sounds like a really badass job. That sounds like fun, actually. I wouldn't mind doing something like that. But yeah, Mike, if you want to go ahead and put your links out there, I made you a mod, so you can go ahead and do that real quick, and I love it. Got a couple scopes out there, guys, for a raffle that are awesome. They're gonna take care of. Now, are those for the jiu-jitsu? For the deputies, is that correct?
No, the scopes are for Kevin Dixie's aiming
for Dixie. Okay, KD's. Okay.
So, he's bringing Aiming for the Truth to Columbia, South Carolina on the 21st of July. We're raffling off a Bushnell and a Leopold scope, but at the same time, I can run downstairs. I'll go grab them and I can show everybody what you're going to get through the raffle. Yeah,
go for it. And I'm sure they'd love to see that. And yeah, it's awesome what you're doing. I love what you're doing with the jiu-jitsu also. I think that's awesome that you're going to pay for a year's worth of jiu-jitsu for some law enforcement guys. And that's awesome. So thank you for doing all that stuff.
No problem.
And from Flo Rida, the tactical troll master himself, Tac Daddy, what's up?
Hey, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it as always. I got to fire this Kevin guy. This guy, it turns out that over the last 6 years, he did such a shitty job promoting TacDaddy.com that Clover never even heard of the damn website. So I have fired that guy, and please unsubscribe. Just move on. No needs to thumbs anything. I'm in reset mode.
I'm glad Kevin's been fired. That guy was a tool anyways.
Total hand job. I'm glad he's gone.
And from Arizona, we have the Godfather himself, G Webbs. What's going on, G? G might be out and about.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
Oh, no problem. And from Texas, the tactical leprechaun, he who knows not TacDaddy.com. You have Clover Tech. What's going on?
That says a lot more about me than it does Tac. I'm just saying.
Well, no, we're not talking about Tac. We're talking about Kevin. Tac's a cool guy. Tac's on top of it. Kevin
was on.
Kevin was a slacker.
1,600 videos linked to the website, and every single one of them somewhere, and somehow he missed them all.
So which one? I don't pay attention to that, but which one is the FUD is what I want to know. Is it Kevin or Tac Daddy?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
That's
we all know you've got the Hulk and Banner, so you know one of them's obviously the FUD, and one is the second.
I might flip over during this. This might be my last chat. I might flip tonight.
Right. Yeah, because you can only transform so many times, I think, and then you become that particular one. So just be careful.
Yeah, and we all know what happens when people have multiple personalities. Eventually, like you said, they stick with one, and you may not have very much say into which one sticks. So make sure that Elmer is not the one that sticks.
Yeah, or the 14-year-old transgender. That would be bad.
Well, that one might actually be fun. That'd be kind of fun to see how that goes. I promise I wouldn't make fun of him at all. Promise that. Let's see here. Ben Farrell says he was going to do an internship with LWRC International in his home state of Maryland in the town of Cambridge, but then he stumbled on reviews which were less than positive, mostly 2 stars. Anybody have any experience with LWRC International? I don't even know what that is.
That's what was Leitner Weiss back in the day, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, okay. All right.
The whole
Philip Rope out.
As far as an internship, I don't. What would be the issue with that?
Yeah, if you, and I was going to say, if you're talking internship, jobs,
experience is experience. Whether it's with a crappy company or a good company, I mean,
that's just learning. That's just going on a resume, also. You know. Philly Rope out there has some decent news to pass out. He says a circuit court judge in Lake County, Illinois, has granted an injunction against the Chicago suburb of Deerfield, blocking the village from enforcing a ban on so-called assault weapons. I hadn't heard that yet. That must be relatively new, but that's pretty good news out there. So thanks for letting us know about that. Doug D, anyone else read the backflipping FBI agent got arrested? That FBI guy, that thing went viral quickly. I'm sure you guys have all seen this, but if you haven't, a FBI agent was at a bar or party or something, decides to do a backflip. As he does the standing backflip, his gun that was, I guess he was carrying low or small in the back, we'll call it Clover style, falls out of his pants. As he picks it up, he has a negligent discharge and actually, I think, shoots some guy in the leg. So, interesting.
The difference between him and Clover, though?
Yeah.
Clover don't do no dancing or backflips.
Thank God. Now, I'm not going to lie. I probably would like to see you try to do a backflip. That would be funny. But it's probably the same thing as me trying to do a backflip. I'd land on my head if I even got that.
I'm too short, so the center of gravity's off. I can't pull it off. I would have to have rocket sneakers or something, then maybe I could do it.
Let's see here. Yeah. All right, Laggy Lag's out there. What's up, McLaggy Lag? All right. Before we get going, guys, do we want to talk about the whole thing that happened today with Trump and Kim Jong-un? It does seem like people are calling it historic peace treaty and all that. And I've been trying to read up as much as I can on this, and I'm not taking anything off of it and saying that it wasn't great. Obviously, you saw Dennis Rodman crying with Cuomo and being very, very emotional. But I don't believe everything I can find out. It wasn't necessarily a peace treaty. So let's not engrave the Nobel Peace Prize yet for Donald J. Trump. The four things apparently that were agreed to in this that I can find was United States and North Korea will commit to establish new U.S. and North Korean relations in accordance with the desire of the peoples of the two countries for peace and prosperity. Well, that just sounds like a political rhetoric. The number two thing that was done was the U.S. and North Korea will join their efforts to build a lasting and stable peace regime in the Korean Peninsula. What haven't they been trying to do for 50 years? Number three, reaffirming the April 27th Panmunjom Declaration, North Korea commits to work towards a complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Nothing new there. And number four, the U.S. and North Korea commit to recovering POA and MIA remains, including the immediate repatriations of those already identified. Now, this is something new where I think they're going back to the Korean War, talking about POWs and MIAs of remains and bodies that might be recovered. At least bring them home and let the family have some sort of closure. Obviously, most of the families are second generation by now, at least grandkids, if not great grandkids of the Korean war vets. But at least they're going to maybe seems to like they can maybe start working on bringing some of those remains home. So as a veteran, I think that's pretty cool. But I'm loving how it's being spun by everyone on the media that this is, I'm not saying it's not a great thing. It's a step in the right direction, but they're calling this the great peace treaty of the 21st century. And I'm not seeing that. I'm not willing to go ahead and give Donald Trump or Dennis Rodman the Nobel Peace Prize yet. What do you guys think about, and this is in no order, but just go ahead and start talking if you want in this part. What do you guys think about what happened today in Singapore with Trump and Kim Jong-un? Is this something that will last? Is it something that is worthwhile? And do we honestly think that North Korea will stick by what they're talking about? And I mean, I can go in order, or you guys can start jumping out. I'll start with Clover if you want to start. If you have anything on this today. Maybe not. Anybody? Tat, G, Mike, Sandy, anybody have anything on the North Korean peace treaty?
I'll go ahead and start it off. But first thing I will say is that it just sounds like everything is still the same. It's just the face has changed. It's still business as usual over there. And they're just trying to make it sound more advanced than what it already is. So it's like, I still see the sheep, but that sheep is still in the same clothing.
Yeah, and that's my thing is basically what they signed a big treaty or a big 9-page document was saying that we're going to continue talking. And like I said, I don't want to make this sound any smaller than it is, because just the fact that it seems like Kim Jong-un may be open to discussing things. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to do a whole lot. Like I said, China's probably going to have to be involved in this somehow, some way. I do think that if we do get to the solution of, I don't think there's ever going to be a unified Korea again, because neither side wants to give up the power of the peninsula. But at least maybe the citizens are maybe able to go back and forth a little bit, bring the North, be able to experience a little bit of what the South is. I don't know why the South would want to go up there, but maybe possibly they would. But at least if nothing else, maybe a step in the right direction. I don't know. I just don't see it being a whole lot of anything new. But, Clover, you got anything on that one? I heard you say something.
Yeah, I was just, I don't know. I have been looking at it at a little different angle, I think, because I don't want to make too much of it either. But I do believe that it's been long overdue, and especially if you listen to Rodman. Dennis Rodman has been trying to open lines of communication with North Korea forever, and he's been demonized, death threats, you name it, right, for years for hanging out over there. And the fact that he's so close to that speaks a little bit to the desire to be more, be more Western. And that may be the wrong terminology.
I understand what you're saying, though. Yeah, you're right.
And I think that's a positive. And that can't happen without opening lines of communication and lifting sanctions where maybe charitable groups can go in there and help clean up, run power lines, redo water systems, and slowly build an infrastructure where it is a more Western country.
Have you guys,
that benefits the leadership over there as well, I think, in the end.
I feel like everybody's missed the fact that this guy's like Mao or Stalin or whatever. This guy's one of the worst people on the planet. Fresh haircut. Really impressed with the haircut he got for the event.
Your bowl cut's rocking, man.
Yeah, dude, he went high and tight this time. But this dude kills everyone, including family members. This is a ruthless, murderous, oppressive dictator of the greatest accord, and our guy goes over and handshakes him. Go watch any of their Korean propaganda videos that are anti-U.S. and tell me that we won. They won.
I think that there's a little bit to that. I would like to say that, Kim Jong-un, they used to say that there could be no one more ruthless than Kim Jong-il, which is his father. This guy was brutal, but apparently this guy, Kim Jong-un, is worse. And yes, he will kill anyone that might have a differing opinion, including family. So that's what I'm saying. I'm hesitant on wondering if this is actually going to be worth anything. But like people are saying in the chat, it is a start. It is a start. Like Clover said, it is a start to get in there. And maybe they do allow some sort of westernization to happen. But I'm very, very skeptical on, 48 hours after they signed the quote unquote Korean peace treaty with the South Koreans, 2 days later, all hell broke loose in North Korea again. So I hope that people aren't thinking that this has changed everything. It is a definite step in the right direction, but I'm still extremely skeptical of someone who thinks he's a god. He believes that he is a god. That's the scary thing about it.
He's been talking shit about the American oppressors and us taking over the world and their entire, again, look at how big their country is, and they have the 4th biggest army on the planet. They devote all of their attention towards the fact that they say that we're going to kill them and wipe them off the planet. And one handshake, one meeting, and we think that this guy doesn't have something up his sleeve. Oh, and he's going to give up all his weapons now, too.
Yeah. That's the thing.
I don't know how anyone's being like, yeah, it's a start. It's a start to what? They signed a worthless piece of paper.
I think it's a start to hopeful dialogue. And honest to God, that's probably right now the only thing and the best thing we can hope for is, if nothing else, possibly a dialogue. Possibly this guy being open to dialogue with us, with the South Koreans, with the Chinese, and in hopes that we all know that, like I said, I don't think there'll ever be a unified Korea again, at least until the or the Kim Jong, whatever the family, the Kims, I guess, is no longer in power, which I don't see that happening anytime soon unless this guy just can't have a kid.
Well, but that's one thing. That's one thing I wanted to bring up too, though. If you talk about, if lines of communication begin to open, and then there starts to be some movement into westernization of North Korea, right? And then at that point, he does something utterly stupid, which a lot of people would think, yeah, that's what he's going to do, right? At that point, would it be a possibility that a situation would be created where he would be taken out and replaced? That the people there go, hey, we were making progress, we were, and look what this idiot did. That's enough. We're done with them.
That's an interesting concept, but
it's a great concept, but I don't know. The people aren't going to, I mean, we're talking about an unarmed populace.
Well, it could be a military coup, though, dude. It doesn't have to be.
He's already killed all those dudes that would possibly have the balls to do that.
He knows.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But at the same time, the other thing is this. The other thing is this. His grandfather, his father, himself, they've all groomed and tried to up the ante with, again, if we're talking about what would be discussed, the first topic would be proliferation of nuclear weapons that he can shoot from there to anywhere on a U.S. soil, right? They've gone up the ladder. It's gotten bigger and better and bigger and further and further and further. And now one meeting and he's like, all right, we're done. You guys are really buying this shit?
Well,
no, I'm not saying I am buying it.
Can we cut into it and let's look at it from this standpoint?
Go for it.
Everything everybody's saying is true at face value, but let's look at it behind the scenes stuff. Let's just happen to say China is starting to say, hey, we're not going to back you now because we think, the president is one of those people that will say something and do it. So we're not willing to back you no more for that reason.
Because they're going to lose 40% of their revenue in their country because if America pulls all that stuff out, which I think Trump would do it. I mean, exactly. He would do it.
Yeah.
I definitely would take the chance that he wouldn't do it,
Mm-hmm. But like I said, so when you're looking at it from that economical point, because I'm pretty sure whenever you're dealing with business, you're not going to just go into a situation blinded anyway. So you already got your pros and your cons. And right now, Kim Jong-un's back is up against the wall because now you have China. Hey, you're not going to mess with my dollars, behind some foolishness, but at the same time, America is like, okay, if you got any type of nuclear weapons, you got to break that down right now before we do anything else.
Right.
Well, if you looked at that has tempered down. They have realized quickly before Trump even left that this was the first of a series of discussions. And the guy, those of you who said, yeah, he's a horrible dude. He's a horrible, evil dictator. But his human rights violations aren't any worse than China's. China, I mean, they have a caste of people that they literally will take these people for their organs and harvest organs out of these people, not willingly.
Yeah, to me, when I think Kim Jong-un, I don't think civil rights and in civilian murders and all that. I think crazy motherfucker with nuclear warheads who is not stable by any means. And it's not just the U.S. I mean, it's that entire Southeast Asia region that is completely terrified of this guy because this guy is clinically, I'm pretty sure he's got to be clinically insane. And you've got a guy who is insane with nuclear warheads. And it may not be America. It could be any of our allies, any of our business. I mean, who's to say that China starts stepping in and say, hey, little brother, don't mess with my money. He didn't sit there and say, you know what, if I blow up China, then I don't have to worry about it. I mean, who's to say? I don't think anything's going to happen. But I think for me, that's what I think of with Kim Jong-un is this crazy sumbitch with nuclear power at his disposal. And that's what scares me is someone who is that unstable and thinks he's a god and is an absolute dictator. There is not even a parliament, or even, at least in Russia, you know that Putin is the president, but at least there is a quote unquote prime minister, and they have the Kremlin. They have some sort of an organization. There is no organization in North Korea. It is Kim Jong-un and his absolute power. And that's what scares me about him.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
Like we said beforehand, I think his chain has been tugged, and now we have his attention.
Yeah.
In that respect, okay, now let's talk. And when we talk, we're going to talk sense to you and tell you how it's going to play out.
And like I said, I'm really hoping that it plays out in a positive way. I really hope that this is the first of many discussions and meetings that maybe he will start seeing the ways of the world, that, you know, you can't go lone wolf in this world today, because you're going to be surrounded and suffocated by a lot of big dogs out there. So, you know, I see him as this rabid, you know, dog out there that's on his own, that's just looking to fight right now, and he's going to have the whole pack surrounding him. So hopefully that pack can talk some sense into him. Then we've been talking about this fool for way too long. Do you guys have anything else, closing remarks on this, and we'll move on?
I found it to be kind of interesting, and I'm not smart enough to comment on foreign relations, but some of the comments that I've heard throughout the day from other politicians here in the States and a few other newscasters, they're all saying how this was a mistake, that they don't like the fact that Trump legitimized North Korea, or legitimized Kim Jong-un as, you know, a world leader, and that he would, you know, give him a seat at the table, and he shouldn't have had that, you know, and they're applauding the fact that all the previous administrations wouldn't validate him on the world scale. And the thing that makes me kind of, I don't want to say snicker because this isn't funny, but the part that got me, isn't this the exact same thing that probably everybody on this panel has said over and over again after every mass shooting that we've ever had? You know, let's not legitimize this animal. Let's not validate them as a person. Let's not talk about them. Let's talk about what happened, but we don't want to, you know, we don't want to make this person a legitimate human being on the national scale or the world scale. But yet they go ahead and do that, you know, on the 24-hour news cycle, you know, at least if it's a case where a good guy with a gun didn't stop the bad guy. We see it for weeks on end. But then we turn around on the world scale, and now it's bad to legitimize somebody who's been doing something wrong. And I find it kind of, again, not that this is a surprise, but some of these people sound like they're talking maybe out of both sides of their mouth.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah, if you're someone that, you know, yeah, we've all said that. You're right. We've all said, hey, we don't want to mention this guy's name. We don't want to legitimize anything this person's done in a active shooter, mass shooting scenario. You're right.
But then I think diplomacy is a totally separate issue as well.
I think so, yeah. And that's where I was getting ready to go. Is this is not necessarily one of those, but I understand what you're saying, and I have a tendency to agree that, you know, legitimizing anything this guy does, like I said, I think that he is right now, and he's actually turned into somewhat of, let's remember that he likes to control the rhetoric and likes to control what the media is doing. And right now he is looking to the world, he's looking like someone who is looking to change his mind, or at least open to new ideas. So let's hold on.
As far as the diplomacy end of it, yeah, like I said, I can't really comment much on that. That's well above my pay grade. But
so it's above all of ours, I think. We did have Adams came back. He came in, left, and came back. We'll welcome Adam back. He's the modern anti-federalist. Adam, what's going on, my man?
Hey, thanks for the invite. Thanks for having me. I'll be sending you a link later. Looks like I hopped in at a good time. Get to talk about politics with my cool new newsy looking globe backdrop. So
yeah, that's a pretty cool backdrop. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
proves the flat Earth.
How did you shrink yourself enough to get inside of a globe? I'm just curious.
Well, see, that's the magic. I can't tell you, man. That's a secret.
Well, the good thing about me is if I did that, I wouldn't have to shrink myself. I am that small already.
Me neither. That's why I asked.
All right. What we're going to do real quick before we move on to the actual topic of the night is we're going to do a little public service announcement. So let's hear what my daughter has to say.
Hey, Ghost Squad. This is Sky. We here at Ghost Tactical would like to continue the trend of becoming more involved in any gun safety and training. We encourage everyone, no matter your skill level, to continuously look for training in your local area. We think that taking a gun safety course every other year is important. We also believe that taking classes and training for self-defense and home defense are extremely important. Make sure to go looking for classes and training opportunities when you can. This not only helps you become more proficient with your firearm, but it helps support your local instructors and Second Amendment community as a whole. Back to you, Ghost.
All right. So, yeah, go get some training in. And, Trey, we actually, Tack and Clover and I had this discussion. We were in a little chat. Training's not for everyone, and we get that. And but I think that those of you that are able and willing to go get some training, I'm not saying you have to go get single-man room clearing training or anything like that, but getting some safety things and just some firearms, a handgun 101 type things, just become more proficient. You never know what you can learn that might help you in a self-defense. So if you guys are interested, please go support your local ranges, go support your local instructors, and get as much training as you feel is necessary and that you can afford. A lot of that is really really good stuff. I enjoy training. I enjoy the tactical side. I love the for me, it's more the mental side. It's the mental chess game that you play in different scenarios. So I enjoy that kind of stuff. But guys, get out there and shoot all you can and all that stuff. What we're going to talk about tonight is the main subject is kind of piggybacking off of last week a little bit with the FBI report on active shooters. I visit a couple different forums and different websites, and one of them is debatepolitics.com, and they have multiple channels and multiple forums for firearms and gun control and debates and all sorts of stuff. And I stick my head in there just because I like the debate and I like the discussion. And, it's interesting to see where they're coming from, where we're coming from, the different arguments and different points that are being made. And the last couple of days, I'd say the last few days, a lot of it has revolved around the number of mass shootings in America and the world, and this terrible trend that all of these mass shootings are taking place. And there was a guy that quoted that there was 200 or 345 mass shootings in 2017 alone, which I thought was humorous in itself. But this is going to piggyback off of what we started discussing last week with the FBI report on active shooters. Now, the active shooters report from the FBI said that in 2016 and 2017, there were 20 incidents that actually met the criteria for the FBI standards of a mass shooting. And of those 20, you had 8 of them that were stopped by civilians. You had 8 of them, I believe, had or 18 of them. 18 of these were of the 50 active shooters. I'm sorry, of the 50 active shooters in 2017, 18 were apprehended by the police. I think the same number were commit suicide of the shooters and all that. But what we want to talk about is why is there seem to be this epidemic of mass shootings, and is there an epidemic of mass shootings? Obviously, we as gun people are the same as any other American. We don't want anyone to die because of stupid people with guns. But the fact remains that there are going to be evil people out there. There are going to be crazy people. There are going to be stupid people out there that are going to commit heinous acts of crime, taking the lives of our own people with the use of guns. No matter what's out there, that's still going to happen, no matter what laws are. We'll get into the whole laws and gun control here a little bit later. But let me ask you guys, I'm going to run through this for the panel. I'm going to start on the other side, and I'm going to start with Adam. Obviously, one person dying from a shooter is more than we need. But is there this huge epidemic with mass shootings, or is it the fact that the mass shootings that are happening are at schools, and that makes it even worse because these are kids, or they're happening in places that are high profile and they're getting a lot more coverage because of 24-hour news cycles right now? So I ask you this, Adam, do you think there is an epidemic of mass shootings? And if so, what can we do about the very first step is gun control something that could work?
I will go ahead and start with the last question first. No, gun control will not work, as has been seen with the majority of these school shootings. These kids are not legally getting guns in the first place. Now, is there an epidemic of shootings? I think that we could definitely probably look at the statistics, and I do believe the statistics show that that there are incidences of mass CAS shootings occurring more, but I think a lot of that is because we have the media is essentially by glorifying these things, by the constant news coverage whenever these happens, because if it bleeds, it leads. They are using that to just to fill all their time and spend their 24 hours 7 giving these shooters their 15 minutes of fame, putting their faces everywhere, saying their name over and over, and then saying what type of weapon they used over and over again, and of course blaming the AR-15. Even if it's like Santa Fe where they use a revolver and a shotgun, they still say blame the AR-15 and blame all guns. So yes, do we have a problem? Yes, I think the media is actually part of it. And I think the way to start fixing that is to not say these people's names, to cover their faces. And, there's also another problem that's not being addressed. When we had the shootings in Las Vegas with that guy and also with the Pulse nightclub shooting, they have found out there was definite ties to Islamic terrorism. And I mean, that was rumored at first, and then no, it actually came out later that in Nevada or Las Vegas, they found ISIS materials and writings, and then as well with the Pulse nightclub shooter, who they are doing they did a die-in yesterday to protest shootings. Well, he was inspired by ISIS, so there's that problem too, and they're just trying to lump everything into just to ban guns, because making laws fixes everything.
Yeah. Let me just go ahead. Who was going to say something? Nope. Okay, I thought I heard someone talking. Yeah, what I was going to say is kind of going on what you're saying is I think there's a lot of different reasons. Obviously, you have people that are clinically insane, that are just evil, that are trying to be famous. And let's be honest with you, I think that you get to a point eventually where one person sees how famous or how infamous someone gets by doing these crazy ass crimes. They think, well, I want my 15 minutes, or I can be even bigger and better than that guy. So I think the copycat side of things eventually does catch on, which is a very, very scary thing. But to me, when I hear epidemic of mass shootings, I'll sit there and say, man, there must be happening something every day. And like I said, I don't want to downplay this. I don't want it to make it sound like I don't think that there's anything going on, because there's obviously something going on if we're having this many, like I said, one's enough. But we're having several happen at churches and at schools and different places that it's disturbing. So to me, what I want to know from you guys is this I've heard things about video games with kids being desensitized by playing first shooter video games. I play them all the time. Now, maybe I wasn't playing them when I was 14. Maybe I would be more crazy if I did, but video games, movies and TV shows, the John Wicks of the world, and these movies that glamorize shooting and all of that. Is this part of it? Is it a societal issue? Is it something that these people are truly looking for attention? Or are we just talking crazy people that happen to get their guns? And Sandhills, do you have an opinion on that as well? Sandy might be gone. I'll move to Mike. Mike, what do you think?
Well, I honestly think when you sit there and you look at it overall, look at where all these school shootings are taking place. Look at everybody who's doing the school shootings, their age, and pretty much everybody is attending the school, you know. And when you sit there and you look at it, it's a result of bullying or some form of rejection in some sort. But overall, when you look at it, this generation of children are not accepting to what we had to go through when we were children. Right. You know, so like if you was to say or do something bullying to me, like as a child, not me specifically, but more than likely you're going to get pushback in some way because of the way you was raised. But, you know, it's just the way society is. It's like the fight is over with and everything is smooth sailing compared to what it was, you know, in yesteryear.
Right. And, you know, unknown user out there says the next shooter wants to beat the high score of the last shooter. And that's something that I think is probably a little legitimate. They see, oh, this guy had 8 kills and 17 injured. You know, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to sound like I don't care, but I think that there are a lot of people out there that are looking to be famous in this. And yes, there are some disturbed people. There are people that are being bullied. And regardless of what we think, bullying when we were all growing up was a much, much different thing than what bullying is now. Back in our day, for most everybody in here is old enough, when we had bullies, you either met after school and you fought it out, and whoever won, and you ended up maybe being friends at the end of the day. But you either stood up for yourself or you allowed it to happen. Today, with social media, the cyberbullying that going is crazy. I'll admit that there are some very hateful things that happen on social media that I could see where it could drive a kid a little disturbed and feel like everyone's out to get them, because it very well could be. And it's very much more difficult to fight back in a cyber world than it would be to physically punch the bully in the nose and say, "What's up?" But you know, I don't know. Like you said, the bullying thing is legitimate, and I wonder and I'm gonna give this a Tack, because Tack went through Parkland and he knows kind of what's going on. But you know, we hear about the bullying, we hear about this kid had issues and had the red flags, the FBI, and everyone kind of knew the kid in Parkland. We've never really asked you this, and if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. But I want to get your thoughts from your experience of the young man in Parkland. Was it something that was overnight, that something happened that he clicked? Or is this something that over time, from the time he may be in 6th grade, that the bullying thing happened, or there wasn't a friendship circle there? I mean, was it something that built over time from what you know? And you may not have known the kid personally, but from what you've heard in Parkland, was there something that added up over time, or was it something that just clicked quickly? And Tack's not even paying attention.
So did Tack actually go down to Parkland?
You can ask me the question.
He lives in Parkland. Yeah, his kids go to that school. No, what I was saying to you, Kevin, is we're talking about bullying and all of that. And I've never asked you this, and if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But the young man in Parkland, was this something that, with the bullying and feeling like he was alone and didn't have very many friends, was this something that happened quickly? And I don't know if you knew the kid personally or knew of him, or was this something that happened over time with this young man?
The stats and data that I can give you that's factual is that I know that he bought the gun in at least a year in advance of the shooting. So it wasn't like a quick turn on that part of it. It was a long-term thing. There's reports. Again, man, it's the corruption to the highest level. You have a sheriff that's covering up for officers that are declining to put sexual assault cases that happened on school campus with this kid and his brother that involved the sheriff's son and his boys. They never reported it to the higher level, therefore it never got reported to the authorities that would have investigated it further, etc. It was ongoing. Most of them are.
Well, and let me ask you this: I mean, did your daughters happen to know this guy? I'm sure they knew him.
He was gone. He got kicked out of the school. He wasn't a current student.
How long ago did he get kicked out, though? It's been a while, a year or two ahead of time.
Yeah, no. It was the prior year, I believe.
Okay, all right.
He bounced around to a couple of different places, and then the stepmother that had raised him passed away. That was another major moment in his life that I'm pretty sure had something to do with the switch being flipped.
Okay. Now you're a gamer. You played games a little bit. Let me get your opinion on this. Does the first person shooting games, and I play a lot of like Rainbow Six Siege. I used to play a little Call of Duty. The kids playing these games, does this desensitize them, in your opinion, to violence? Does this want them to feel like they want to create a real world first person shooter game in life?
I don't know what it does, but what I can tell you is, again, I don't think that I know that not everyone agrees with this. However, what I'll say is that I don't think there's any way to say that it does nothing. I played games for years, and did it make me go do anything? No. Do I have a good family and good structure and purpose in life and all that stuff? Yes. Are there people out there that are probably more vulnerable? Yeah, but what it's doing is, again, it's training young kids to acquire targets and pull triggers with no consequence, if anything, with reward. It's what it does. Any of those first game shooters, that's what happens. You run around, you kill everybody else, or you're on a mission and you kill certain people and you get rewarded by it. And again, I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but I can't think that for an impressionable 11, 12, 13-year-old that plays it 8 hours a day, that it does nothing.
So at what point do we sit there and say, and I think that this kind of falls into the whole package of they're playing it all the time, and you're right, pulling a trigger, acquiring targets with rewards. You also, at the end of each round, have a scoreboard, and we'll see, hey, you had 7 kills and 3 assists on it. So you are being rewarded as far as points and leveling up and all that. And I think that it has something to do with what they're talking about in the chat earlier, is the scoreboard. Is everything in life right now for these kids in games is a scoreboard, and trying to move up that scoreboard. And I think that, I'm not saying that games and movies are the problem, but I think that there is some argument that there are contributing factors to desensitizing kids with violence. You played games in the past, you watch a lot of movies. Are we crazy, or do we have a valid point here, or what are your thoughts on this?
Valid point. What was your point? That video games are causing this?
I think that, the point we're trying to make is I think that there is something to the point that these kids playing video games and I think Tack is right, the rewards of doing well in these first-person shooter games, and what they're talking about in the chat is the scoreboards, maybe sets up these kids to think that they don't live in the reality more, they live in a video game.
They wear shoes, so everybody that wears shoes is a suspect. And there's more people playing video games than watch movies. So to suspect, so you guess that the 1 or 2 random, oddballs have anything to do with what's similar to everybody else is ridiculous.
That's my man right there.
That's not what we're saying. We're saying that it's ridiculous to think that it.
Uh-oh. Sell hell.
Anyway, so I don't like this whole idea of calling it a mass shooting. I put a link over here to I don't know, I didn't do much research. Just as you've been talking, I've been looking around. Mass killing. You want is it important to talk about safety rules, right? When we're talking about firearms? Or do we say, it's boring, it's not important, people should know that? No, we talk about safety rules because there's a reason to do so, even if it's not fun and exciting. When somebody talks about an assault rifle, do we correct them when it's appropriate in the conversation because they're using a made-up term? Or do we just let it go and there's no consequence in society to it? We're going to keep going around. If we're going to use the word mass shooting, it's ridiculous. There's mass murders, there's mass killings. And this, I did a quick look on the internet. While firearms are involved in some of them, bombs and fires and con men and dynamite has taken out way more people in this country than firearms have. That's going off there. But I found this thing on USA Today. If you look at mass killings, which we're conflating with shootings, if we're going to allow them to set us up in these ambushes, and we're going to allow them to give us the data to feed us the argument, and then let them challenge us to answer their accusations, then they're going to compare the instances with firearms, and they're going to compare that with all killings. All killings, 49% of them are family members. 49% of what they consider a mass killing in this country is family members, right? 10% of them are during burglaries, some are unknown, and then 19% are public. If you scroll up and look at some more numbers, 1 in 6 of the mass or public killings have anything to do with firearms. And if you look at this number from 2006 to 2017, can you tell me where the epidemic is? The definition of epidemic over here, is a widespread occurrence of an infectious disease in a community at a particular time. So you're going to tell me that an individual's action is a disease. Okay, fine. Maybe in a culture, in a community, that's potential. But tell me where the escalation is. We live in a world that's pretty safe, and we have the consistent amount of mass killings every year. Most of them have to do with family members. Some of them have to do with work. And most of them, if you look at this thing, there's all kinds of interesting correlations and relationships between the actual people and their victims. So we're failing as a community to continue to have this conversation on their terms with their within their confines. And if we're going to use the word like shooter, we're shooters. We go shooting. They're taking our language. They're taking our culture from us. They're making us the bad people here. These are mass killers, and that's accurate language. And video games have nothing to do with any of this.
Fantastic. I'm going to let Clover jump in real quick before I move on to the next point in this. Clove, you have any idea what the hell their argument is about these mass shooters and all that? I mean, we all know that obviously one death is bad and one active incident, one mass killing, whatever you want to call it, is more than we should have. But is there an epidemic?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I don't, there's ebb and flow, I think, to everything. So if one year's a little higher, they're going to claim it's an epidemic. And then the next year, if it's not, they're not going to say anything. If over 3 years, it gets a little higher. To go back to your FBI report from last week, if you look at that, when you first kicked this off, you were talking about specifically schools, right? And that accounts for like 10% of what the FBI was talking about. So, right. I mean, if that only accounts for 10%, that means you got 90% happening other places. So, why is 150% of our focus on the kids? And the answer to that is obvious. It's emotions. It's, right. It's our children, and they are seemingly defenseless. I get all of that. But reality is 90% of the time it's happening elsewhere. So it's not a school problem. It's a bigger issue. On the thing with video games, I think to say across the board that yes, they're the cause, or no, they're the cause completely, either way is inaccurate. We covered this in a 2-part on the Wednesday show. If I don't remember if you were there for either or both of those, but we did the pros of video games. We did the cons of video games. And right. I think that video games offer a situation, and you can tie in violent media. All right, it doesn't even have to be movies. I mean, they could be watching YouTube channels or whatever, right? But I think if you tie in violence, glorified violence, be it in a video game with a reward, or on TV where the good guy is killed, as a really high, die-hard body count, right? And in the end, he wins. Okay. And and then you mix that with other factors that I think are the root of the problem, that's when you create this cocktail, right?
Right.
And initially you said what creates, what creates these mass killers, these mass murderers? Because I do agree with G, and I fall into the thing where I want to say shooter too. And I do agree with G on that. I think just like not showing these killers and murderers' faces on TV and saying their name and whatnot, I think we don't call them shooters, right?
Yep.
We call them what they are. But I think the root of it lies in a socioeconomic place.
Holy shit, man! I'm not smart enough to understand that. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, there's some common denominators when you look at mass shooters. See, I did it, and I said mass shooters. When you look at mass murderers across history, and especially within the last decade or so, there's some common denominators. And no, I'm not talking about psychotropic drugs, and no, I'm not talking about the guns. They're socioeconomic issues. You're talking about people that have repeatedly failed in life, that repeatedly blame others for their failures. They don't pull themselves up by the bootstraps and say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this done. I'm going to make this happen. They're social introverts. They, for the most part, stay isolated. They're not active in their communities and projects and other things. And lack of empathy. I mean, there's a lot of things that go on with that. And a lot of times it's a product of, their home life, their economic situation, their environment, that sort of thing. And then when you feed these social constructs that we deal with on a daily basis into that, and then you feed in the alternate realities of video games and movies and things like that, like I said, you mix a cocktail that's going to be trouble.
Tack out there so he can't get back in. No, and I'm glad you guys are mentioning that, because my whole point with this was to go over some of the arguments that are in some of these forums and all that. And I know that some of these forums, they get some weird people. I get that. But it's also, for me, it's also sometimes nice to go in there because these people are, regardless of if they are nameless and faceless behind these keyboards, they do bring up a lot of points because they are on so many of these different forums and all that. They kind of let you know what the voice of the other side is saying. And the other side is saying there is an epidemic in mass shootings. There is an epidemic in our kids being, they like to use the words, our kids being killed in math class and all of this. So my point was, going back to the FBI report, in 2016 and 2017, there were 50 incidents in 21 states that were considered active shooter incidents. Not mass killings, not mass murders, but just active shooters, which means there was a gun involved in a public place where people could potentially get injured. Of these, 13 law enforcement officers were killed. That includes the Dallas incident. 20 law enforcement officers were wounded. 20 of these 50 incidences met the mass killing definition. 14 incidents ended with the exchange of gunfire between shooters and law enforcement. All 50 shooters were male. 3 of them wore body armor. 13 committed suicide. 11 were killed by police. 8 were stopped by citizens. And 18 were apprehended by police. What I will say is this. My thing is I don't think that you can honestly say there's an epidemic. With as many guns there are in America, there's a lot, 300 million guns. So we'll say the amount of guns that are out there, the people that have them both legally and illegally that are out there, the fact that we only had 50 active shooter incidents in 2 years does not support, in my opinion, the other side's statement of there is an epidemic of these killings and shootings going on. That being said, I do believe that there is something to be said about society, whether it is video games, whether it is movies, whether it is your economic status in life, whether it is bullying in school, whatever the reason may be, there is a reason why someone goes off and does crazy things. But to sit there and come on and say it is time to go and take guns, it is the guns problem, the guns are why all these are happening, is ludicrous. And we sit there and see this all the time. If guns are banned, if we do just go and do 100% gun ban in America, are you telling me that that's going to stop crime? Are you telling me that's going to stop these worthless killings happening? We all know it's not going to. And my whole thing with, there's a lot of people in there in these forums that are talking about this, that, and the other. They're talking about our kids dying in math class. All the developed countries in the world have much less gun crime and much less gun deaths than America has. And they try to sit there, but obviously when you start talking facts with them, they won't listen. One guy said there's 345 mass shootings in 2017 alone. When asked where he got that number, obviously they're not going to reply to that. So what I want to do real quick is, obviously my thing is I don't think there's an epidemic. I do believe that one shooting is too many, but there's not an epidemic. There's not a killing spree going on. I do agree with what G is saying. Referencing these people as shooters is misleading. That is degrading what people in the gun community are. These guys are murderers. They are psychopaths. They are killers. They are evil people that just happen to use our tool. So let's go back. I'm going to start back with Adam and go back and say, are there solutions to this? I mean, obviously, I'm not saying gun control, but are there solutions? Is it just the fact that we need to enforce the laws that are already on the books? Or is there something out there that we need to do as far as our kids? What, in your opinion, is the beginning of a solution to help stop people that want to grow up and kill other people?
I think the first thing we need to recognize in this country is that we have a massive mental health crisis in this nation. I don't think we see the same problem in other nations of the mental health issue that we have. Now, if we look at other nations, we can find horrible acts of violence occurring. In fact, if we actually remove a few key cities like Chicago and a few others like that, you find our crime rate drops dramatically, because a lot of the big shooting problem is actually gang warfare. In fact, some of these school shootings that have been quickly swept under the rug, but mentioned just enough to say, oh, another school got shot, was gang-related violence. But we do have a severe mental health issue, and until we start addressing that, and I think if we look at most of these mass killers, especially in the school systems, at least, when we look at other ones as well, they're all on psychotropic drugs. So that should be a warning indicator in the first place. I'm not saying that the psychotropic drugs necessarily drove them off the edge, but they could have been contributing factors. Or at the very least, we go, well, these people are put on these drugs in the first place. Maybe we need to do some more follow-up with them. And I think as a society, we have become so alienated. And as great as technology is, where we're able to come together and have this wonderful conversation and have 40+ people viewing right now, everyone's sitting there on their iPhones. They're not paying attention to everyone else. They're not paying attention to their family members. Children are being raised on iPads. So until we get some accountability of people coming back and going, man, I think Jimmy's a little off. I think until we collectively fix ourselves, because we don't have those social safety nets anymore. Like people, like I'm not a religious person, but look at church membership. It's actually been going down over the decades. And so by people not having these social networks to get out, I think that is causing part of the problem.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Having the social safety net of having organized after school functions or whatever, you know, when we all kind of grew up, I'm sure we were all the same. When we got home, I don't know, it was at my house, so when we played sports or whatever, we were basically told, don't come home until it's dark. And then when you come home when it's dark, you have dinner, homework, and go to bed. But we were said, hey, go out there, be with your friends, be outside. And I think you're right. Now, a lot of it might be because there is, in today's society, more two-parent households are working, so they might not have the parental guidance after class. They get home from school. What's the first thing they do? They do go ahead and turn that video game on or whatever. Yeah, probably if we had iPads and Xbox Ones that were to the level they are now, we had Ataris and Nintendos but maybe it would be different. But having these iPads where anything is at your fingertips 24/7, yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said about that. Sandy, let me ask you this, and in your opinion, I think we can establish there's not an epidemic in mass killings. I'm not going to say shootings, but mass killings. But like I said, and what Adam was saying is the parental side, having something for them to do. Is it as simple as parents being better parents?
I don't know that it's simple at all. I would say that that's a huge step in the right direction. And the reason I say that is you can look back at crime statistics over the years and family dynamics over the years, and you can see a direct correlation between the decline in two-parent households and the rise of crime overall, violent crime, whatever. And so I think that, and like I said, it's not as simple, it's not cut and dried like that. I think I oversimplified it by saying it that way. But at the same time, there is, data to back up the fact that the two-parent families definitely do seem to turn out kids that don't get into as much trouble. You don't see as many convicts. You don't see as many arrests, things like that on people with the two-parent families as you do in a single-parent home. So I think that it's a step in the right direction, just having, whether you have one parent or two or five, if they do their job as a parent, it's hard for me to talk this way. I'm not a parent.
No, I
don't have kids. I don't have kids of my own, but at the same time, I have eyes and I have ears and I see and hear a lot of what goes on around. And I see so many people that they're trying to be their kid's friend and they're not trying to be their kid's parent. And then all of a sudden later on, when the kid gets a little bit older, things just kind of blow up and they don't understand why the kid could act out the way that they are when we're such good friends. And I mean, those of you that have kids of your own, I think you all understand where I'm coming from with that. Your kids have friends. They need a parent. And my dad, my mom weren't my friends when I was a kid. They were my parents. I had friends.
Friendly, maybe.
My parents were authority figures to me. And I respected that authority. Not, my friends weren't in authority over me and I didn't respect them as authority figures. So,
yeah.
I mean, if you have a friend at work who gets a promotion and all of a sudden they supervise you, it's hard to see them sometimes in authority because they're your friend. So, some people can deal with that at work and some can't, but, it kind of works the same way, I think.
Yeah. Now, Calaveras out there makes a great point. He said, people don't want their kids playing outside due to the fear of who might live near them. Our sense of community is gone.
Hey, Ghost, real quick. Thank you for the invite. I'm going to jump out and go give Night Strike some love. I haven't been on his show in a while, so.
Yep.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great night.
You got it, bud. Yeah, I think that has nothing to do with also the community. And someone out there says it takes a village, and it does. Yeah, community doesn't seem to be. It's like everyone's out for themselves, and everyone is worried about what the Joneses are doing and trying to keep up with the Joneses and all that. To where community barbecues and community things just don't seem to happen anymore. And I live in a small town, and smaller rural towns is kind of where you think that'd be prevalent. But even here, it seems to have to go for 3 months of planning to get a few hundred people involved, where before you could get the whole community come in and just say, hey, we're gonna have a community cookout. Everyone kind of brings something, and used to be just awesome. So I think there is something to be said about that. Now I want to go with Mike real quick and say, as you do a lot of training, from a trainer's point of view, are there people coming to get training because they're in fear of people attacking their homes, or do they want to get training for different reasons, or is it just because they like training? Because the reason why I asked that is this: for those who like to train, and I love to train, don't get me wrong, I love to train, but I train more or less because I want to, obviously want to be prepared, but I enjoy the chess game of tactics. Is that happening more and more frequently, or are people coming and say, I'm literally in fear that someone might come and attack me or my family and we want to get trained? What have you kind of seen?
From my standpoint, as far as the training part of it goes, a lot of people came asking for training to protect themselves and property. So when you look at it, it's that double-edged sword. When everything's going on in society, I've always said, regardless of where you at, every place is a shoot house. Because even if you're at McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, or whatever, hey, if you're not training, you don't know how to handle a situation and use possibly the trash can as a barrier, so you can move or shoot back. So somebody who doesn't train out of fear, they might just blindly pull, But yeah, to answer your question, that's what a lot of people come to me for, is training to protect themselves and property.
So whether it is legitimate or not, there is a definite fear, at least where you are, there is a definite legitimate fear for the safety of house and family that people are willing to go and learn to get trained. Now, have you seen that training pick up in the last year or two since this quote unquote epidemic has started, or has it been pretty much steady, throughout that time?
It's based off of the media, because when something happens in the media as far as a shooting, that's when I start getting a lot of phone calls and emails and people, hey, let's go to the range. I want to do this. I want to do that. So it isn't like it's for me and you. We'll be talking and like, hey, let's go get this training. Let's do this.
Right.
So it's media driven on this side.
Of course.
But now to back up what you had said earlier about a solution, I've always said this: when all this started, and if it was such a big problem for everyone, why don't we hold people accountable for their actions? So if somebody is actually shooting up a school, and we already know most schools are gun-free zone, whereas here in South Carolina is like every school has 2 sheriffs in it, the truancy officers,
Right.
So of course they're trained or whatever the case may be. But in a place like Parkland, where they didn't have that until like the phone call was made, why don't we hold the shooter accountable by labeling them domestic terrorists, come forth with the laws for domestic terrorists, hold them accountable, whereas when this happens again, now that person knows what they're going to be faced with, and that might reduce it. I don't know if it will or if it won't, but like I said, that's just my train of thought right now.
Sure. No, I agree with you. G, I want to bring you in, as I got a question for you, and this is something that you've been fighting the good fight for a lot longer than most of us, as far as how to fight the other side in these debates, quote unquote. They're not necessarily debates anymore, because very few of them that they use are facts, and it's hard to debate someone that's using emotion instead of facts and won't listen to facts. But is there something, we've had this discussion a little bit, but obviously what we're saying when we say keep just throwing facts at them and eventually they're going to break, I don't know if they are, because the more facts we throw at them, they just either ignore them or they try to discredit the source. They're never going to buy into it. For someone who's kind of fought the good fight for so long and seen the different peaks and valleys of the Second Amendment, is there something, in your opinion, that we need to be doing differently? Is there a different fight that we should be fighting instead of just throwing facts at them and trying to shove reports down them, because they're obviously not looking and reading these reports and taking them as actual information? They're saying, oh, they're skewed to your party's agenda and all that. Is there something that we can do to combat when people say the epidemic of these mass shootings are inflating and all of our kids are at danger and our kids are going to die in math class? Because I don't know how the answer to that, because I go on these forums and try to throw facts and have civil conversations, and it always ends up getting very emotional and taken off of point. So is there something that I can personally do, or any of us can do, when you're having a discussion with someone that refuses to listen to facts?
So I'm not been fighting any longer than anybody else, right? So was it better for the British to stand in a big ass line and all do the same thing, or was it better for us to do whatever our strengths were? And that's what we need to do, right? So they're pretty much standing there like dumbass British coming at us with moms demand this, or students are yelling about whatever. So I don't think we need to do anything as far as, or anything in lockstep as far as what works and what don't. Nobody ever said, I've never heard anybody says, throw the facts at them. When the hell does that work for anything ever? Maybe for studying for a test. But no, everybody's got to figure out how to communicate, and you can either do that, or if you'd like to just argue with people, you'll just run around arguing with people forever. But everybody grows, right? You mean, the hell, everybody has to start somewhere, learn, experience, and get better, have conversations like this, right? Take from them and go on. So that's the answer to your question, that everybody's got to do their own fight and keep getting better every single day of their own, get better for themselves every single day. Don't judge yourself against what somebody else is doing. Was that last conversation you had effective? And if not, have a better conversation tomorrow. So back to, can I take a minute? Back to the
when you do, go for it.
Done. I found a couple of things. I didn't research this any more than what it's taken while you guys were talking to search on Google. This was a pretty neat site. I linked it on GunChannels. It shows individual shooters throughout the history since 1891 to today. So there's hardly any urgency here. It's a very consistent amount of crazy people pick up whatever's handy and do crazy ass shit. A lot of these are at schools, and a lot of them are heinous, horrible atrocities. This is from 1976 until 2014. I'd like to show you, have anybody show me where there's anything growing there other than perhaps the number of victims. The victims are on top, but the number of incidents is about the same. So this is firearms again. This doesn't, and let's not forget, this is taking hand-picking firearms. If they're going to hand-pick 3 years that are perfect, why wouldn't they pick the thing that they want to use that's perfect? If they're not going to compare this to school buses and fires and horrible other things that people do, then we don't know that this is any more or less. It's certainly not more than, I mean, the numbers involved here are certainly not more than accidents in hospitals, literally just the accidents at hospitals. When we look at this playing video games or society or bringing up kids or mental health, that's all a diversion. That's all ambush to get us to talk about something that has no consequence, to talk about things that require more big state, that require federal answers. That's bullshit. Let's look at it this way. If this is USA Today, I'm assuming a fairly middle of the road or left leaning. I don't think USA Today is right leaning, are they? Left leaning our thing that says the what is this, killings with mass killings since 2016, they tend to happen on the what do you call them, the coasts, right? Except if you flip over to this data, it tends, these are gun murders per 100,000. It tends to happen in the South and maybe in the states with more population. So if we're going to just start randomly trying to figure out what a few random individuals, let's go take a math class and figure out how to actually get real projections out of stuff, how to take data and use it, because the little pieces of data that they're giving us are handpicked to have us run around feudal. Like you said, they're trying to pull at the heartstrings with kids and stuff right now. So you look at all that and you go, oh, we have a lot of murders and shit. Here's the whole world. Here's the whole world's murder rate. And there's us. We're not white or nothing, but we're also free, right? Here's the whole world. We're not these countries. And look at this one, has one of the largest international borders with us. And you know what I'm saying? They're going to ignore all of that. They're ignoring all of that, and they're going to concentrate on ours. So if we look at the murder rate, like, what was it? Did Snowy leave? Somebody was saying, look at our murder rate over time. Here's our murder rate over time. Before you had actual real archive data, you know, prehistory kind of, you kind of project that it was lawless times. There was no consequences for action, blah, blah, blah. We get into the industrialization or whatever. Might be interesting for someone to figure out what happened here, but this was probably during the war. So, you know, wartime, people weren't as interested in coming home and slaughtering each other. You have the assassinations and the turbulence in the 60s and whatnot. And then look at this. Here's the epidemic that we're dealing with today. Here's our epidemic. It looks to me like you could have you could say that we live in one of the most peaceful times in this country's history. And if you extrapolate that out to the world, we're living in one of the most peaceful places on the freaking planet Earth. And they're going to suggest that we live in an epidemic, and that epidemic has to do with shooters, and those shooters are going after your schools. It says right here on USA Today that 57% of these mass killers going after their family members. They were people that they knew. So maybe don't just be a dick out there and don't worry about video games or anything else, and pay attention to the real numbers, because we're being led into this freaking ambush.
Yeah, and that's the issue. I've had discussions with some people over there, and you point out different things we just talked about right there, and they'll sit there and say, "We'll take Honduras and Mexico and Venezuela and all that," and say, "Oh, no. We only want to talk about developed countries." And I said, "Developed countries? Do they not have running water? Do they not have electricity? Do they not have internet in Venezuela and Honduras? That's a developed country. Do they not have their own food source? They have their own GDP, the gross domestic product. Every country that has a GDP is developed." "Oh, well, we're talking about Western civilization." I said, "Oh, no. So no matter what we kind of answer we give you, you're going to change the criteria." And that's exactly what I was asking is, for someone that is it almost easier to just walk away from that person that's never going to listen. I get that the 20% that we're arguing with is probably never going to change their mind on guns, just like that they're not going to change our minds. I get that. But the problem that I'm having, and that's not really a problem, because I enjoy the debate. But eventually it all comes down to, no matter who you're debating or where you're debating at, it seems to come down to emotion versus fact. And when facts are thrown at them, they're broken down, and they change the criteria to make sure that there is no way to possibly answer their question correctly in their eyes. So it is interesting to see that we do live in a very peaceful world, considering we live in a very peaceful country, considering the population, considering the amount of guns. But I think that the fact that we have guns and guns are prevalent in our society is what makes us so peaceful. I had someone come back. I'm getting ready to get a Clover on this because I want to bring you in on this. I had a guy ask me, he said, name one developed, civilized country in the world that has lax gun laws, that has a higher death rate than America. And I asked him, I said, name one other country in the world where the very fabric of their existence revolves around the citizens being armed. Name one other country in the world where the founding fathers of that society and that country said it is not only crucial, but it's an obligation for the populace to be armed. And it's not just to fend off people that are trying to rob them or trying to hurt them. It is to fight off a tyrannical government that may or may not turn on you eventually. We live in the greatest country of the world, but every world and every country is susceptible to a dictatorship. And if you ever had a dictator that tries to come along in America, why hasn't it happened yet in the 200 and almost 50 years? Why? Because the populace is armed, and they know that if we ever did that, they would have a big ass fight on their hands. So I want to bring Clover in on this last one before we get out of here. I don't want to step on Night Strike too much, but let me ask you this. The fact that emotion is usually played, and no matter what we say to the argument of there is a mass killing epidemic out there, they're going to change the criteria. Is it easier to walk away? And if it is easier to walk away, how do we keep the fight alive to where it is not a snowball of people out there saying that there is a mass epidemic? How do we combat that? If they're not going to listen to facts, in your opinion, how do we combat the fact that these people in the media seem to love the fact that there are shootings all the time, and they basically put any mass killing on the TV and say this is an epidemic? Is there a way around this, or do we just kind of keep on keeping on and try to prove everybody that we are law-abiding citizens that like guns? Is there a way around this, or is this going to be something that may not ever go away?
Okay, I've kind of got a two-parter here, but to answer the first question about do you walk away, I think you have to attempt to plant that earworm, right? So. Okay. Use your facts, your stats, your data, plant that, don't get frustrated. And then if you have to, yes, walk away, and understand that if you're talking to somebody that's completely changing the dynamics of the conversation and the premise of the conversation, we've had this repeatedly, that you should be able to identify this within the first, 30 seconds of talking to somebody, whether or not you can establish some kind of a factual basis for the conversation. If you can't, then it's not going to go anywhere. And really, there's no sense in wasting your time. So at that point, get that get that data out there. Maybe they reflect on it later. I like G's idea about maybe having cards with certain websites or certain facts and figures and stuff on it. That's kind of neat about here. Maybe hand it to them and say, hey, appreciate the talk. If you want to know more about what, our side thinks about this, here, check this out. Because maybe that'll give them a chance to make, some of them may look it up later. But I think you need to look at the person that's saying it and realize something, that you've got a lot of anti-gunners out there that are drones, right? They're not influencing anybody because of their tactics and the way that they operate, because they enter into the conversation and they're not consistent and they change their arguments and they do all of this, that most people, they don't grasp a hold of that and follow them. They go, well, that guy's nuts, and they turn around and walk off, right? And we're talking about people in the middle, people that could be swayed one way or the other. They realize the nuts when they see them, and they say, oh, that he's lost his mind. He can't keep the story straight for nothing. So I don't think there's anything bad about just calling it quits and severing ties and walking away if you need to. Now, on the second subject, with the whole epidemic and the emotional and all of this, you said something earlier, and it was you or Mike or maybe both of you or something. Y'all were talking about the training. And something was mentioned, and I'm paraphrasing. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but the general idea of what I heard was that I'm trying to think how to do this. That people go get training out of a realistic fear. I've got a real problem in this. Do what?
Or what they perceive as a realistic.
Realistic fear. That's okay. Great. I may have not heard the whole thing, but my point, regardless of that, because I'm not picking on either one of you about that. My point is, I've got a real problem with what goes on our side as well as the left and whoever it is with peddling unrealistic fear. If I don't want to go do training because I think that statistically I've got like a 0.003% chance of ever being involved in a shooting situation at all, then okay, because why? Because that's realistic. Right. So if somebody is coming in now, if I live Southside Chicago and I walk to work every day, that might be a different. I might want training or something at that point. I might be in some karate classes or something. At that point, that would be a little more realistic. So that's when you're talking about fear. I mean, based on location and all of that, yes, it could be. But here's the issue I have with that. When we're like, a situation happens, a tragedy happens at a school, and immediately, like, you hear teachers and students and people in like rural freaking Utah, talking about, oh, we got to do something about it. And I'm like, my God, these are like 10%, or less actually of anything. And then the odds of anything happening are slim on top of that. And it's like, this is a problem. This is an epidemic to the point we've got to do anything. So we've got to not play into that narrative by accepting that the fear of it is reasonable. Does that make sense?
No, I think 100%. And you and I had this discussion many times, but when it comes to training, like I said, I train because I like the tactical chess movements of it, and I enjoy that side of it.
And I'm not knocking. There's nothing wrong with it. For example, I'll give you an analogy here. Okay, I propose that everybody out there, if you've got any kind of land, any kind of a little backyard, you can do raised gardens, you can whatever, learn how to grow some food. Okay. Do it for a year, do it for a couple of years, get out there, plant some different things, find out what grows in your area, just play around with it. Learn that. Why? Because you may live 3 blocks from the grocery store. That's cool. So the odds of you ever having to grow your own food, probably slim, right? But what if it happens? At least you know how to do it, right? So right. I don't have an inherent problem with the training. I'm just saying it needs to be approached in a realistic thing. And I see a lot of trainers and stuff pushing that the world is such a crazy, chaotic, there's this epidemic to sell training. And I'm not talking about Mike or honestly any of the trainers I know, but there's people out there that do that. They prey on that fear, and that feeds into the media's thing that there's an epidemic. It's like, okay, see all these people going to get training. Well, they're going to get training because there's an epidemic of gun violence or whatever. That's bull. It's preparedness is what it is.
That's right. And I'll agree 100% what you're saying. Mike, do you want to say something?
No. Okay. I'm not in a disagreement of anything. Like I said, it was just a random question about my area and the fact of training, which I did honestly say it was media driven, because it's just like in any place when they say a hurricane's about to hit, but if it's going to tear up Florida, but it's going to barely touch South Carolina, the grocery stores here are going to be empty.
Exactly.
With the what if factor, because everybody can always spend it however it is. But
what I would like to
disagree
for someone that does training, and not saying for you, but just in general, these training facilities and training companies and ranges and all that offer these different types of training. To a certain extent, you got to almost think that the media might be one of their best marketers for them, that you may not have to go and try to sell training, because the way the media is always saying that there is all these killings and you better, all this and the other, they might actually do a lot of your marketing for you. So I think there's a lot to that. And Clover, yeah, absolutely.
And it hasn't been mentioned, but so I definitely want to throw it out there before you leave. Yep. We talk about going and having, doing the tactical training or the defensive training or whatever. Everybody out there, the most common thing that you will use in your lifetime as far as training is medical training. Go get some.
Absolutely.
Car wrecks, house fires,
the tourniquet. I mean, there's all sorts of things that basic first aid classes don't touch on.
Accidents in general happen all the time. You're far more likely to run across a car accident than you are be in any type of a shooting situation. Go get some medical training.
I agree 100%. As far as the training and all of that is, I mean, like I said, I think that everyone needs to, if you're going to have firearms and you're going to have a handgun, let's break it down as a handgun. If you're going to have a handgun, it's a part of your everyday life, whether you carry or you just have it in your truck or you keep one in the nightstand, but a handgun is an everyday part of your life. Whether you want to go get actual training or not, please go be proficient with that firearm. Make sure that you're going to be safe, that anyone in your household that may have contact with that handgun knows how to safely use it, and make sure that you're going to be prepared for the worst, but also be safe at all times as well. So the last thing we need is someone in our own community making us look bad. I will say that I can't believe that everything I hear is there's an epidemic, when we know that if you look at 2016 and 2017, we're going to say 20 combined, 20 were considered a mass killing by the FBI, 20. And once again, one is enough, but it's not an epidemic, because there was, as according to the FBI now, there were, right here it says that 20 were mass killings definition, and from 2014 and 2015, there were also 20. So it's not like it has spiked so much in the last 2 years. It's consistent. And just like G Webb said, it has now, the death totals might have gone up because of a couple different instances that there were maybe higher death tolls, but consistently throughout the history of America, it has been a consistent pattern on incidents. Yes. Are you going to have some? Yes. And I'm not trying to say that they don't mean anything, because they do, but understand that we have 300 million firearms in this country. There are going to be incidents. And oh, by the way, the more gun control that you try to pass, the more and more that you're going to make new people criminals. Criminals, by definition, do not care about your laws. They do not care. Psychopaths that are evil, that want to kill people, are going to go and kill people. If you don't allow them to have firearms, they're going to use explosives. They're going to use cars. They're going to use knives. They're going to use anything and everything you can. My whole argument for those of you out there, and there have been some people out here from this forum that have checked in, obviously, on the forum. They've kind of been talking a little bit smack. I noticed that I have 6 thumbs down. Fantastic. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your thumbs down. Thank you for your engagement. I very much appreciate it. But to you people that say that all of this is happening, I sit there and tell you this. No matter what you do, crazy is crazy, evil is evil. If you want to take guns and try to make it a gun-free zone across America, you're just inviting these people to have even more power over us. Why in the world would you ever want to allow people the right to defend themselves? Just because you choose not to have a gun, just because you choose not to be able to defend yourself or your family, does not give you the right to tell me that I cannot defend myself and my family and my homestead. I just hope to God that you never are involved in a crime. If someone tries to violate you or your family, break into your home and hurt you or your family, I hope to God that never happens, because God forbid you come asking someone who's pro-gun that you have demeaned for your entire life to ask them for help. On that note, I'm going to start running through the room, and please go ahead and plug anything you want to plug. Let's start with Adam. Adam, the Modern Anti-Federalist channel. Go check them out. He's got a chat maybe later on tonight, possibly. But go ahead and plug what's going on your channel right now, bud.
Yes, I absolutely do have a chat that's going to go on. Starts at 10:30 Eastern time, so essentially an hour from now. Yeah, please come follow me over at the Modern Anti-Federalist. I do a Tuesday two-way every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. I try to get a video out every Saturday as well as a minimum, and I try to get stuff out in between if possible, covering gun news. You really won't see me shoot too much, but you will see gun politics, gun news, and yeah. So thanks for having me. It was great. Once again, congratulations on getting above 1,000 subscribers, man. That's no small feat.
Oh, I appreciate you. And yeah, we Clover and I, Alaskan Ballistics sent us a link. That was 2 or 3 weeks ago, a couple weeks ago, to be on your guys' chat, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, you're doing some awesome stuff. So go check out the Modern Anti-Federalist channel. Really good stuff. Go check out his chat out tonight. Really good stuff. By the way, I'm still so jealous of how you use green screen. I've got to do that when I get the studio set up. So I will be contacting you to getting some pointers on the green screen thing, because I think there's some really interesting ways you could make that help you out. So awesome stuff. And I love the little globe, the spinning globe, even though I do get a little dizzy right now. I'm not going to lie.
Just keep watching. Maybe you'll puke on camera. It'll be great.
Awesome. Hey, now that'd be a good TV right there. I'm not going to lie. That'd be good TV.
Ratings through the roof.
Yeah, right. Mike, once again, MW Tactical, you're all over social media, Facebook and all that stuff. Go check M-W Tactical, Munitions, Weapons Tactical, if I'm not mistaken. Talk to us about the channel, what stuff you got going on, and if you want to plug your projects again, please do.
Okay. Once again, like I said, if you want to follow me, please go to Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Type in M-W Tactical or Munitions Weapons Tactical. It'll all show up. I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera on right quick, because I'm going to show this scope.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to lock you on real quick.
Okay. So like I said, the 21st of July, we're doing Aiming for the Truth with Kevin Dixie here in Columbia, South Carolina. And we're raffling off a couple scopes. So if you are the winner of the Bushnell scope, it comes with everything you see. So it's already ready to use. It has LaRue Tactical QD mounts. And I'll show you right there where it says it's LaRue Tactical. You know, so this right here is a Bushnell 1-6 variable optic. If you want to go for the long range, you have the Leopold 8.5 to 25 with a TMR reticle, and it also comes with a Kestrel. So if you go to m-wtactical.com and click on the raffle and purchase, you'll get these two, and Kevin is also throwing in some hats and shirts with both of these as well. So this right here, the total is $50 for this one, and the Bushnell is $30. And we're only doing 110 tickets for both. So 110 tickets for Leopold, 110 tickets for the Bushnell.
You can get the Bushnell for $30 or the Leopold for 50.
That's a come up. That is
wow.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and on top of that, I love why you're doing this. You're bringing KD in to do some training. So I mean, and everyone that knows KD, he's up in Missouri. We're actually trying to get him to come down here to Arkansas. I've been discussing about getting him down here. He's going to do some training here in my hometown, and I can't wait for that. But yeah, really awesome stuff. And it talked about being involved in the community as well. So I know you're doing a lot in your community. I know you've got something else going on, so you want to talk about it as well.
Yeah, so the last part is, if you don't want to give the raffle, you can go to gofundme.com/m-w tactical. And once you go on there, you can see the video that I put together that explains what exactly I'm doing. So basically what's taking place is we're looking to sponsor 3 sheriffs, giving them a year of jiu-jitsu training at no cost to them or the department. At the same time, we're looking to do a summer youth camp, purchasing 22 long rifle pistols and training the kids over the summer. And the last part of it is getting together volunteers to go out and do a voter registration drive to get more people active into the community. So our goal is $10,000, and the $10,000 will cover exactly the handguns, the 22 rifle handguns, the bullets for the training, and the year for purchasing the 3 officers and their equipment for jiu-jitsu.
Now, let me ask you a question, because this is something I've really never actually heard about someone doing, which I think is amazing. Explain to me and people out there that may not have any idea of really what jiu-jitsu is. Why is jiu-jitsu possibly something that could be beneficial for law enforcement officers?
Okay.
And why did you choose jiu-jitsu?
Okay. So when you look at it overall, I've been doing jiu-jitsu now for over 12 years. So I started doing it in the military. Now, if I was to sit here and tell you everything I went through over in combat, because of the jiu-jitsu, it calmed me down to the point of I can do other things and still stay within the fight. So all my deployments, I've only put my hands on 2 people in an actual, engagement, but I didn't do jiu-jitsu on them, even though I was already doing jiu-jitsu training, so it opens up your minds. It relaxes you, but it gives you that confidence to go forth and do what you have to do as far as your job. So when you look at all this negativity that's going on with police officers, and the first thing you always say is, why did he pull his gun on this person? Right? Because you got to understand, we only go back to our last resort of training. Right? So when you go through the police academy, if they're only giving you the basics and not pushing you forth to get more advanced training or anything that can benefit their job in a better aspect, okay, this is where we're coming in at, so let me give you jiu-jitsu training for a year, and at the same time, you're getting like free physical training,
Right.
and at the same time, the same training is going to develop your thinking process under pressure. So now when you have to do it, it's second nature for you.
Yep. Yeah. Study martial arts in general is something that I started when I was probably 9 years old with Taekwondo, and then moved on into do some kickboxing, all sorts of different things. And in the military, you learn different hand-to-hand combat that is kind of based upon a lot of different elements of martial arts and on all of that. So the reason why I asked that is, for a lot of people that don't understand martial arts in general, and I'm not too big on jiu-jitsu, so I was actually honestly that for me legitimately, but for the most part, martial arts gives you a way to focus, to be able to control your emotions, to be able to control your mind and your body in a way that puts you more at peace in it. And I don't know, peace is a good word, but at least control in high stress situations. So I think the fact that doing jiu-jitsu training, not only for the physical side, but for the mental side for law enforcement, just going to be able to put them in a better controlled situation to where they are able to maybe decipher problems and dissolve problems before they escalate. So I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And kudos for you trying to do that. Because that's, like I said, people don't think about that side of it, but there's a way that can be handled where you don't have to use a firearm and all of that. Like you said, it's not just the physical side, but it's the mental side of being able to control your emotions and control what other people do. A lot of stuff that I've always done is actually using your enemy / opponent's force against them. It's not necessarily being an offensive art. It is get this person on the ground and out of the picture so you can move on to step B. And a lot of that is using them against themselves. So I don't know if jiu-jitsu is like that or not, but a lot of stuff that I've been trained with is more or less get them out of the picture, let them be their own worst enemy, and move on to the next crazy. So yeah, that's awesome. And thank you for doing that.
Oh yeah, it revolves around the same thing. So like I said, with that GoFundMe, we're not asking people to donate like $200, $300. We're asking people to donate as little as $1, $5, whatever they can spare, so we can actually meet the goal and go forth with the mission.
Awesome stuff. And thank you again for that. G, you've got Daily Gun Show at midnight Eastern. You've got GunChannels going. You've got the 24-hour gun show, the Minuteman University. Anything else that you're trying to get involved in? Because you've already got about 17 different hats you're wearing. But go ahead and talk to everybody about the projects you're working on right now.
Yeah, a bunch of that stuff and other stuff. I was just looking at the difference between jiu-jitsu and aikido is what I thought the Marines use, right?
It's based upon a lot of that. The quote unquote line training is what they used to call it, was a mixture of 3 or 4 different martial arts, but most of them were basically in preparation to not necessarily kill someone. It is more or less to get them down on the ground and out of your way, let the next guy coming worry about it, and you move on to position B. And if that person wants to get back up and start something, then you've got your brother behind you that's going to do the same thing. So for us, it wasn't wasting time on trying to dissolve that personal issue at the time. It's get him on the ground, get him incapacitated to where he can't cause harm to me right now, move on to the next objective. If that fool wants to get back up and work on something, I've got my brother behind me that's going to take care of him again. So for us in the Marines, it was not necessarily about wasting time. And I don't know which one it was based on. They called it line training is what they initially called it.
When you explain it like that, we should have a chat sometime and use that strategy for conversations with antis.
That's actually a really good idea. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Try to solve the problem, and we can just move on to the next one and let the next
guy get them also. Yeah. So you've got Daily Gun Show at midnight Eastern. You've got you've been doing some stuff over in GunTube also. You want to talk a little bit about that?
GunTube's pretty awesome. So Night Strike's over there doing his show, but yeah, check out GunTube if you haven't. He's got a pretty decent setup over there. We've been playing around with the different tools over there, which are completely separate from YouTube now. So, well, they always have been, but they are. We can do everything we can do here plus more because we can put 12 people in there, and we don't have the shackles of, the giant video platform is going to worry about lawyers and attention from all different countries and just so many things to deal with. It makes it a difficult platform to deal with sometimes, and we don't have any of those issues on GunTube, so it's pretty fun. Check it out. And support him on Patreon. He's doing all this for $34 a month. It costs him a lot more than that to run that place. He doesn't have sponsors. The stuff that we're doing over there doesn't lend itself to sponsors. Unfortunately, he's not big enough yet. Enough of us aren't using it to give him the kind of metrics, the kind of numbers that would bring the advertisers to him. So we can help him out by giving him a couple of bucks in the meantime, and we can help him out by using the platform, which will attract the advertisers. That's what capitalism is.
Yeah, thanks for what you do. And, I know that you probably don't get into it, but your channel is under attack again to some extent on the YouTube side. So, considering that you're doing what you're doing and
YouTube's lame. Yeah, they give me like 4 days and they take away my live stream. So I hang out in chats like this. Who cares what they do?
Yeah, and we're glad that you're doing that because I think that, like I said, what you do for the community is amazing. And if nothing else happens the rest of the time, having gun channels over there where everyone can kind of hang out. And like you said, we went to Wanamaker in April. We had over 30 people from the gun channels community hanging out. And if nothing else, that was an amazing thing to do. So, but thank you for all that you're doing. Check out the Daily Gun Show every,
since we're patting each other on the back, let's put a challenge out there because I'm sick of let's throw some challenges out there. Gun Rights Policy Conference, September 22nd in Chicago. We got 30 people to go to a gun show just to hang out and whatever. But why do we do stuff like that? Perhaps just to have fun, but also to gather content, to learn how to network so that we can grow channels, so that we can create audience and have some fun, with reaping the benefits of the creation of content and all of that ensues. Well, why do we do that? Well, hopefully we're doing that to get something good out there, something meaningful. So the gun owners' rights groups get together once a year. They've been doing this for 30-something years. I think this is like 34th year. They've been getting together and strategizing. They talk to each other about what's been going on this year, what they've got coming up next year, what they might need, what they've got to offer. They each take the stage for a little while. You guys got a chance to see that through the Polite Society podcast the last couple of years. Every year they bring it to a new city. Sometimes it's a pro-gun, like it was last year, Dallas. This year it is Illinois, Chicago. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be cheap. It's free to attend. They're going to give you, I think they say $500 worth of Second Amendment books. So the authors that are there and stuff all donate books. You're going to get a big pile of books to take home. The food is free. It's usually decent catered food. It's courtesy of the Second Amendment Foundation and the Citizens Committee to Keep and Bear Arms. But all the pro-gun owners' rights groups are represented there. And how awesome would it be if we brought the first group of people as a unit, not just like, from this state or from this Citizens Committee or from this, 2A group, but just from people from all over. There's just advocates coming that represent all those groups just to fill seats in that audience, to give those people who do the real work. We're just people chatting on the internet. These are the people devoting their lives, their fortunes, their careers to our Second Amendment and our descendants. Let's give them some support. If we're going to go to a football game or we're going to go to some race or something, or maybe a wedding, we're devoting time and effort to do that each year. We put some time aside for that kind of stuff. Every once in a while, something comes up that we have to do. Let's put some time aside for our second. Let's give those people some encouragement by putting butts in the seats, and think about the networking you'll be able to do as a channel. If you're a creator, think about the networking when you shake hands with Alan Gottlieb, with John Lott, with Chris Cox, with the Pratts, right? People you don't know yet by name. And you show them that we're out here and we're having these conversations on the second, and you've all got audiences and they're interested in your shooting sports or in your long range builds or in your AR configurations. And at the same time, they're interested in what you got to say and you're interested in having them as a guest or something. And if nothing else, just seeing the people in the audience is going to give them some encouragement. We're going to have midterms coming up. It's going to be an interesting year. So start putting that on your calendar. September 22nd, Chicago, right in the middle of this year, right in the middle of the city, in the country, and towards the end of right before the holidays.
Awesome. Clover, you got a bunch to plug, and congratulations on 1,500 subs. Really awesome show last week, and I enjoyed the conversation, and I love the giveaways, and I think everyone enjoyed it. But congratulations on all of what you're doing. Tell everybody out there, should they live under a rock and don't know who you are and what you do, tell them who you are.
I'm not gonna do that. They don't know by now. Then right. I can't help them. Some men you just can't reach, right? So I'm gonna take the opportunity for a little public service announcement. I think in light of what we were talking about, I don't believe that we ultimately win this fight by trying to approach and change hearts and minds of people our age and maybe even a generation younger. I believe that our focus has got to be on youth. We've got to raise up young people that do not succumb to the, what is being pushed as the norms of society. We've got to bring up the leaders of tomorrow, the volunteers of tomorrow, the politicians of tomorrow. And we do that by getting out in the community, getting involved, volunteering, spending time with those kids, even if it's not range firearm oriented, if it's helping, mentor program, helping with homework, or maybe you're a good metal worker or a mechanic or something, you can offer some type of apprenticeship to a kid. Because I really believe that the part of the key to curbing what's going on with the way the millennials and some of the things we see in the youth and mental issues in society as a whole, right, is to figure out at an early age what kids are good at, and they need help a lot of times figuring that out. You may have kids that could grow up to be the most awesome mechanic or inventor or engineer or whatever that the world has ever seen. But if nobody spends the time to identify that, hey, this kid is awesome at doing this particular project, and then pushing them in that direction to do that, and then hopefully they enjoy it as well. It gives them a focus other than where's my life going, what is my financial situation, what is my social situation, right? It gives them something meaningful to focus on, and I think we need to get out there. I think we have an obligation, honestly, to get out there and want to commend Mike on moving with his camp program. I'd like to see a lot more of that stuff across the country.
No doubt. And one thing I want to discuss real quick also is June 27th. It's coming up quickly, guys. The ATF comment period on, they call it the bump stocks, but it's more than bump stocks. It is them trying to understand and redefine the definitions of rate of fire. You can try to go find this a lot of different places. If you wanted the easy way to do it, there is a link. You can go to gunowners.org, which is the Gun Owners of America. Click this link right here, or just go to gunowners.org, click on Take Action, and it'll kind of help you. Not only will it take you to that link, but it'll also kind of, if you choose to use it, it'll give you a little template of what you can say in your comments, and take it, make it your own. But don't just send a comment and say bump stocks should not be banned. Please go in and make them understand why a regulation on bump stock and rate of fire altering devices is wrong. Let your voice be heard. You have till June 27th at midnight Eastern, or actually 11:59 Eastern, to make sure your comments are being heard. It's going to be extremely important to let them know that we are serious about no more regulations. If you want to do something with the ATF, then go ahead and end all regulations. Don't just keep adding to them. So June 27th, make sure your voice is heard. Please get out there and get your comments and all of that. Thank you to everyone that's watching. For those of you that are still left, a lot of you left when Night Strike went live, and that's great. We want to help a brother out. So, oh yeah, we're in DF2. We're not getting to rate of fire right now. That's a whole other ball game. Don't get me started on rate of fire. But go check out what is left of Hit or Miss over on Night Strike 1's YouTube channel, on GunChannels. It is Hit or Miss. Night Strike and Smeggy and Travis and Sandy's over there. And I'm going to cough right in your ear. Awesome. Sorry about that. But go check them out. Make sure you go check out Adam's the Modern Anti-Federalist channel. Usually it's Adam and Alaskan Ballistics. They're going to have their chat come up here pretty soon. Then you have the Daily Gun Show. It's a great way at midnight Eastern to kind of finish off your day. So got some talking about some great movies and some quotes and the gun shop of the day, the gun of the day, and then different things that are happening. I think Tuesday is that not concealed carry day? Is Tuesday, G?
No, it's Second Amendment Tuesday. I like to
Second Tuesday. Okay, I'm trying to remember what day concealed carry type stuff is.
We don't say thanks enough to you warm up shows. It's nice of you guys to get the word.
We're glad to help. We're here to help. Yeah. us little people are here. We're literally to, I'm like the opening act. I'm the guy that they found at the local theater and said, hey, can you come do stand up for 2 minutes before the next opening guy, which is a state local guy. Then you got the guy that's kind of just been signed. I'm like the guy they found at like the local VFW that happens to be funny at the bar and say, hey, will you open up? You're getting about 5 people behind you. So I'm glad that I could help you out. Thank you for doing the Daily Gun Show. Thanks, guys, for everyone watching out there. I appreciate it. Go check out Adam. Go check out Mike. Go check out Sandhills, G, Clover, all these guys. They're doing some great stuff out there. Gosh, I'm sorry. But thanks for watching. Go check out Hit or Miss right now. You got Big Gunner 81 that might be going live here a little bit on Gun Channel side, so go check him out. Go check out End Your Day on Daily Gun Show. It's awesome. And thank you guys for watching. I truly appreciate it. If you want to find out more about different things with Ghost Tactical, go check us out at www.ghosttactical.us. We have the drill of the month up there. So this month's drill of the month is El Presidente. It's a little different version of El Presidente. Go check that out. Go to the range. Take someone with you. Introduce someone new to firearms. You might change their mind. We all remember what it was like for us to pull that trigger for the first time. So get out the range and shoot. And I'm going to choke to death. Appreciate you guys for always watching. We're going to get out of here. But thanks again for everything. Semper Fi.